Welcome to week 2 of my little video blog thingy dingy, in which I take questions from you guys about my music and otherwise, as long as it's appropriate. And I try to answer it for you in relatively entertaining and insightful ways. So this week, we have some really, really interesting questions, actually. Some of them are kind of repetitions, but I really feel it's important because you guys took the time and made the effort to ask the questions in the first place. So I'd like to try to answer them. So, for example, Michelle Smith asks me what my biggest musical influence is and why, and that's similar, if not exactly, pretty much what was asked last week. But I'm going to try to relate to it differently. So, if last week I talked about um, I believe it was Peter Gabriel and Smashing Pumpkins. So this week I actually want to go back to some of the harder stuff that I used to listen to. There was a time where two of my favorite bands were Guns N' Roses and Skid Row, particularly Skid Row, who actually opened up for Guns N' Roses at one point, which was kind of cool. And yeah, the Skid Row, that first album with 18 in Life and Youth Gone Wild and I Remember You, which I actually did a cover of about a year ago or so. That was actually one of my favorite albums at the time, and I think that influenced me just in terms of the very powerful choruses that he had, were just these huge hooks. And those are the kinds of songs that I could listen to again and again and again and again. And yeah, that's the kind of music that I want to write. That's the kind of music I want to listen to. And I must have listened to that album 1,000 times. I remember I had it was on tape back then, so the tape would go through so long, so many times that it'd have like these little like kind of breaks in it, and you'd hear the breaks every single time you listen to it, and then it gets worse over the years. And yeah, such was life before CDs. Um, I played that thing to death, really, and yeah, that's definitely had an impact on my music. Actually, some of my producers have commented that I'm sort of like I do what's called theme rock, I guess, if they sort of like real kind of massive choruses and whatnot. So there's definitely an element of that, and certainly growing up as a kid, I actually wanted to sing like that and tried to and failed miserably. I always overextended, and I was screaming and wasn't really singing properly. I didn't really have any vocal training at the time, and I didn't sound very good, needless to say. But that's yeah, I was a kid. That's kind of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to sing, and those were the role models that I had. So it certainly affected me. And now I sort of just kind of found my own zone, and I've been going through vocal training for the past like 8 months or so, and it's kind of allowed me to sort of be comfortable with my own voice and where I'm at and experiment with various styles, but not necessarily overextend myself like I did back then. It's very important to sing like you and not to sing like somebody else. So I try to do that. My good friend Yakov Khazan asks, boxers or briefs? So yeah, I will publicly say that I'm definitely a boxer guy, but the kind of boxers that I tend to go for tend to be sort of like hybrids of a sort. Um, but yeah, definitely boxers over briefs for the most part. So now you guys know what type of underwear I wear. Um, okay, moving on. We have Rex B, who asks, "What size venues are you playing now?" Well, Rex, this is a fantastic question. That all depends. If I'm playing by myself, I meaning with the band, if it's just us, we will choose the smallest venue humanly possible because it is much better to have a small venue that you can fill very easily than have a big venue that's half empty. That's always a general good rule that pretty much everybody will tell you. But there are plenty of instances where we play bigger venues because they tend to have better sound and tend to be better places altogether. And we want to have like better exposure. And so in those cases, we'll team up with a bunch of other bands, which I understand is very much the standard in America. They have plenty of shows where you're going to hear three, four bands in one show. Each band does their own promotion, and yeah, and we tend to get exposure from each other's crowds. That's really the best way to kind of get your music out there. In fact, that's what I'd like to continue to do now a lot more of, actually. Rather than play the small places, I'd rather play the big places, but with a bunch of bands so that we can more easily fill it up. Because I just find that there's just greater room for exposure. You can grow much quicker that way. That is assuming, of course, that the people from who've come for the other bands will actually stick around for your show. So that also depends on where you're positioned and what people's attention levels and what their patience and whether they have to go or not comes to. So yeah, that's pretty much it on this tour that I'm trying to set up now for California in May. I'm going to be playing really small clubs. It's going to be an acoustic show, most likely just me. If I can team up with another guitarist, um, then I will do that. But for the most part, it'll be me and a piano. So the smaller, the better. Small kind of bars and whatnot. Unless I could get a gig opening up for somebody. That's really what it comes down to. Okay, RJ Hudson writes, "Who is your favorite band?" So carrying on, even though once again it tends to repeat itself, I would say like this: I'll now focus more on the modern bands. If I was focusing before on sort of old school bands such as Skid Row, um, I'll name actually two bands that I've been listening to quite heavily lately. One is Papa Roach. I had the opportunity to hang out a bit with Papa Roach when they were touring with my brother in England, which was kind of cool. I got to meet Jacoby, who's just a really, really nice guy, and a lot of fun to party with. And yeah, I'm a big admirer of Jacoby and the band in general. Their sound is just top notch. They have some incredible material that's just very exciting, catchy, the kind of stuff that you just want to listen to over and over again. I like his lyrics a lot. And he's one of the best performers that I've seen. I mean, the energy that he brings out on stage is phenomenal, and he's just a lot of fun to watch. And so the combination, that whole package, is just really fantastic. So they're very much up there lately. As far as the kind of stuff that I've been listening to and that I'm interested in. And the other band would probably be Linkin Park. That's an album. Their latest album is the one that I tend to keep putting in and listening to again and again. You know, and in this day and age when you have so many options and so much music, whatever, for you to actually put in an album again and listen to it is probably a big thing. And yeah, also there's just something I can kind of zone out to the music, and the melodies are extremely strong. There's really big hooks there. The stuff that they do with electronics I find very interesting and cool. I haven't always been a fan of all the rapping and whatnot, but I think they do it really nicely. And yeah, but once again, what's interesting is that despite the fact that these are the bands that I listen to and that I really, really like, and I guess they'll influence me on some level, but nonetheless, the stuff that I produce, for it to still be me, I'm not trying to copy someone else. So it's not going to be Papa Roach, it's not going to be Linkin Park, and I think that's very, very important that that every musician knows who they are and what they are, and kind of continue in that direction. Certainly grow as a musician and expand your repertoire and your ability to play different styles, but to sort of stay true to who you are. All right, the next question is from Victor Stashenko. And he asks, why Disturbed quiet? Which I assume you want to mean, why is Disturbed so quiet? So I'm just going to kind of put this out there. Disturbed are signed, and they have some excellent PR people working for them. And I'm a little independent guy who's working really hard to kind of get my own music out there, so I'm really not going to do their work for them. If you want information on Disturbed, there's plenty of places all over the internet for that, from their website to YouTube to Twitter. I mean, you can even tweet my brother if you want. He tends to answer on occasion. And yeah, there's no shortage of information out there. So yeah, you're welcome to go get it. But you got questions for me? I'm happy to take it. Julie Newcomb asks, where is your favorite place to go to find solace? Which is a fantastic question. So my first and foremost place is here in my apartment, which is where I'm speaking from. That's definitely my refuge on many different levels. Certainly my bedroom, my sort of inner sanctum and whatnot. I tend to be a homebody from that standpoint. I place a lot of stock in, where I live, and that, that it's comfortable, and that's kind of my place of solace from that standpoint. But when it's not my apartment, if I really kind of need to sort of zone out, excuse me, and think about things and gain perspective on things, I'll go out to about 45-minute drive from Jerusalem is Tel Aviv. It's one of the other big cities out here, and they have a great beach out there. So certainly when it's better weather, we go out there, and and I can just kind of chill out by the water. There's something incredibly calming about the sea. That it's the Mediterranean. It's quite beautiful out here, actually, and just this endless, vast sea that just stretches for miles and miles. It just creates this incredible sense of serenity and peace, and I really love it. I particularly like going just around sunset, um, and that really helps kind of clear your mind and clear any thoughts and kind of get perspective on things. So, hope that answers your question, Julie. And the final question of today was asked by Dan Day, who asks, would you rather have your music reach billions but your career last a year, or the music to reach hundreds but your career last for decades? And Dan, that is a fantastic question. In fact, ding, 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 Kilo, you win, like, I don't know, this week's, best question award. Maybe I'll give you a song or an album or something, because that's just really fantastic. And I like to address that on several levels. First and foremost, on the level of just even concerts that I've done, I would prefer to play to 10 people who are engaged in what I am doing and interested in what I'm doing than 100 or 1,000 people who are not. And I've had various different experiences between the two. I had one gig in which we had a very tiny venue. I had just a tiny venue. It was actually just me at the time. It wasn't with the band, and I got a ridiculously unbelievable turnout. There were like 150 people easily, and the place was equipped for maybe 40, 50 tops, 60 tops maybe, and it was just overrun. And it just kind of turned into a scene, and it was like a real social evening, and everybody was just kind of talking left and right. There were plenty of people who weren't really there for me, and certainly at the time when it was just me and a piano, it was a lot easier to be ignored. And that, despite the amazing turnout that I had, was in my mind one of my worst gigs. So it's certainly not about numbers; it's about quality. We've had plenty of gigs where there hasn't been a great turnout, but the people that have come have been incredibly engaged, and we just can feed off their energy in the audience. And certainly, it translates to what I do online. It's certainly easier for me, and I can dedicate a lot more time towards being in dealing with people individually, various fans from all over the world, which I get tremendous satisfaction from, and takes a tremendous amount of my time as well. Um, and that's something I can do because I don't have hundreds of thousands of fans all over the place. We're currently at 3,000, and yeah, I'm very proud of the community we've built, and it's really nice to be able to do that. And I think there's something to be said of something that's just everlasting, rather than the sort of like one-hit wonder sort of thing. For example, Gaudier kind of comes to mind. That I do wonder whether Gaudier is still going to be relevant next year or the year after, because somebody I used to know isn't really. That's not really the rest of the album. That's just a very distinctive song. It was just very much a one hit. And so we'll see, if he continues to be relevant. And, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to be relevant, if I want to just, be, super popular amongst millions of people for 1 second and I'm just forgotten the next. Um, I'd like to be remembered, really. And if you have an impact on a small amount of people over time, and it lasts for a lifetime, I definitely think that's probably much better. But on the same token, basically, in the music industry, a lot of times success is judged based on your numbers. If I don't have hundreds of thousands of hits on YouTube and hundreds of thousands of fans on Facebook, the industry doesn't tend to look at me very seriously, and I don't necessarily stand much of a chance of turning this into a career. which it isn't just yet. And so it's that constant sort of tension between those two issues. But for the most part, I would definitely like my career to last for decades, to be continuing to be relevant to people for decades and having continuing to have an impact on them for decades, rather than be just this one hit wonder. Because that doesn't really, that just goes to show that you were in the right place at the right time and you had good marketers behind you, and that's pretty much it. And that's all that we have for today. I thank you all for tuning in. I hope I didn't talk too much. I see we're at 15 minutes and I'm trying to keep it down, but I got a little carried away. I thank you again for sending in the questions. Please continue to do so. Please tell me what you think of these things. Give me feedback. Let me know, do you like it? Do you not like it? The ways you think I can improve it. Your responses are extremely important to me. And thank you. Have a great weekend and hope to speak to you soon. Take care.